Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Molly. It's 4th of July weekend and it's time to do some garden work. And today I wanted to take you along with me to show you what I'm doing. Now I live in Utah, zone 6/7, and I love to succession grow as much of my vegetables as I can. And it's time to start moving into a next succession. I have several empty garden beds, which I'll show you outside in just a minute. And I'm going to be transplanting some for fall crops, and I'm going to be actually planting some out today. Now this is 4th of July weekend, and this is the time where I plant my cucumbers and I pot up my fall vegetables. So let's show you what my cucumbers look like right now and show you which fall vegetables I'm going to be potting up. Now we don't have a lot going on in my grow room right now, but we do have my little cucumbers that just sprouted. If you've watched previous videos, you know that I have some quail in my yard that absolutely love cucumber babies. So I always start those indoors, get them sprouted to about this level, and then I have my cups with the bottoms cut out that I use to protect them. I have clear ones. I don't like using the clear ones as much because it's so hot outside it ends up frying the cucumbers. They do get enough sun coming over the top to be able to grow. And once they hit about 3 mature leaves, then that's when I take the cups off, and the quail don't like to eat them anymore. But cucumbers are a very fast growing plant, and we'll have cucumbers by September. The other things that I have growing in here are my fall crops. Now I like to plant my fall crops out in the garden by the end of July or the first week in August. You know, it doesn't really matter, but I try to aim for the last week in July, and reality usually ends up being the first week in August. But what I have here is we have some red cabbage, we have 2 different kinds of other cabbage, we have collards and kohlrabi. Those are the fall crops that I really enjoy growing. Now I've done a lot of videos on how to up-pot vegetables, so I'm not going to go through and do this very carefully. I'll link some videos up above so that you can watch one of those if you're interested in all the details. But we're going to up-pot as many of these as possible, water them in, and then take you out to the garden to show you what's growing there right now, and then plant our cucumbers. So the first thing that I want to up-pot are my kohlrabi. This is about the size that I really like to up-pot them. They have a lot of roots and they're ready to go. And I have 12 of them growing in my pots. I thinned them out so that we have 12. And I love kohlrabi, so we're going to up-pot all 12 of those. So what you do is you just pop them out of your container very gently. These have a few roots. I think these are about 3 weeks old, possibly, but they're ready to transplant. And if there was more than one in the pot, if I hadn't thinned them out, you could gently tease them apart, and I might have some that I can show you that. So let's get the kohlrabi planted, and then we'll show you how to tease roots apart. So we're going to go through, dig a hole so it's buried just as deeply in this pot as the pot it just came out of. And there's the first one. So let's get the rest of these done. So now that we've got the kohlrabi done, we have 6 more cells left. And what I think I'm going to do is do 3 of those as the red cabbage. I really have an issue getting red cabbage to grow well, but we're going to try it again anyway. So we've got 3 of those. The next one that I'm going to do is I have 5 of the collards, but I think I only want actually 3 plants because they grow huge and they give a lot of leaves. So I think I'm just going to take the 3 biggest ones and discard the rest and just have 3 collards. So now we have a full tray of fall vegetables. What I'm going to do next is, I do like to grow organically, but to me, growing organically does not preclude using some conventional fertilizers. I really, really love Osmocote, especially when growing vegetables indoors, because it has, number 1, 4-month lifespan, and number 2, it has the perfect amount of nutrients for growing plants. Now, when we say conventional, a lot of people think that this poisons the soil and poisons the plant. It does not. What conventional fertilizer is a man-made fertilizer that is in the form that plants can utilize immediately. Now this is slow release, so it's encapsulated. So every time I water, the right amount of fertilizer is going to be going into these plants, and they will grow very quickly and very beautifully and be ready to plant out, and it's not going to poison them or poison the soil. Now, if I put too much on it, and if I overuse or use this fertilizer wrong, it will poison plants, and the same thing will happen if I do that with organic fertilizer. So we read the label, we use as much as it says, and be grateful for the growth. There we go. Now the next thing that needs to happen is we need to water these in. Do not forget to water them in. The soil is already moist. It does have organic fertilizer mixed in with the mix. This is my own homemade potting soil. And if you're interested, I'll link a video showing you how I make my potting soil. But there's a lot of fertility in the soil. It just needs water. Right now, because I just planted these plants, I'm going to water overhead. I'm just going to take my little watering container and water it in from above. After that, every time I need to water, I'll just remove one of these plants and pour water into the tray and let them soak it up. That's a much better way of watering plants, is to do it from bottom watering. But I want to settle these in, make sure there's no air pockets in there, so I'm going to water from above this first time. There we have it. Now I'm going to put them under the grow lights. They do need grow lights. They're not going to be able to grow as healthy and as big as I want if I put them in front of a window, and I don't have a good window anyway. So I need to put these under my grow lights so they get the best growth possible, so they're ready to go in about 3 or 4 weeks. Now the next thing that I'm going to transplant is my cabbage. This one I think is early Jersey Wakefield. This is one of my favorite cabbages. And let me show you how to tease apart the roots. And I only have room for 12 cabbages, so I'm going to do 6 of the early Jersey Wakefield and 6 of my Glory of Inca something. I'll put the name on the screen. I don't know what it is. But we have 2 plants here. We have a good root system. If I go in very gently and just tease these roots apart, you'll feel a little tearing. But you can see that this one has a lot of good roots. Let's lay that one on top here. And this one has a lot of good roots, and they will both transplant really, really well. So we're going to put both of these in their pots. Dig a hole deep enough that the roots just dangle in there. And those will do beautifully. So now that the up-potting is done and we've got our plants under the lights, let's go show you where we're going to put these cucumbers and give you a little update tour of what's going on in our garden. So before we plant our cucumbers, let's give you a little bit of a garden tour. It has changed a little bit since you last saw it, and it's looking really good. Let's start with the tomatoes. These are my tomatoes on the south side. It's late in the evening, it's about 8 p.m. and they've gone through a really hot day. Over here we hit in the hundreds, even if the rest of the property stays in the 80s. So it gets really hot, and sometimes it inhibits a little bit of tomato production. But usually in July, like we just had, we have a slight bit of a cooling, and that allows the tomatoes to set, and we're getting tomatoes to set. As you can see right over there, we have a reservoir, and all of these beds are exclusively watered by an Oya system. And I'll link a video up at the top that shows you how I set that up. Sometimes during the day they do wilt a little bit, but by evening they come back and they are still setting tomatoes. I've vowed to myself this year that I'm not going to give in and come water with the hose, so I can really understand how these Oyas work. We don't get a lot of rainfall, so there's no rain watering these. It's just the Oyas, and these have not been hose watered or hand watered since they were planted in May, and this is July, and this, like I said, this hits the hundreds over here, so I'd say they're doing pretty well. Now I'm not going to go over varieties other than this bed is my paste tomatoes and a couple of interlopers, and they're starting to set tomatoes. I've got some paste tomatoes here. I usually like to plant San Marzano and Amish paste. This year though, my tomatoes got mixed up and I don't know which ones are which. That's part of the reason why I'm not telling you what they are. Other than, this is the shape of San Marzano, so I'm pretty sure at least we have some San Marzanos. So we've got tomatoes that are starting to form. We've had an excessively hot early summer, so most of the tomato blossoms aborted, but this cool off is really helping. Now this one I do know what it is. This is one of the purple tomatoes, the Norfolk Industries purple tomatoes. It's a GMO tomato. I loved them so much last year that I planted them again. This is a Brad's Atomic Grape. I've already harvested one and it was delicious, and it looks like we're going to get more. This is an Indigo Kumquat, which is also another gorgeous, really delicious tomato, and it looks like we're getting a little bit of a tomato set on it. Another GMO purple tomato. This one I'm pretty sure is a black zebra. I got it for my daughter, and look how gorgeous that is. It's another larger cherry tomato. Not sure what this one is, but it's a possibility it's a sun gold. This one, I'm not sure. You know, like I said, my tags got messed up, so I don't know what they are. So anyway, it looks like we're going to get some tomatoes. Well, we usually get a larger tomato set in August that ripens in September. These are my Jerusalem artichokes. They took a real beating from the windstorm, and they have not quite recovered from it. It was a huge windstorm with 50-mile-an-hour winds, and that's what all the death on these are. But, you know, maybe we'll get some Jerusalem artichokes out of it. I did completely clean out this bed and re-amended the soil and replanted the Jerusalem artichokes, so we'll see what they look like next year. These are kale and leeks. I won't be harvesting the leeks until late fall, possibly early winter, and they're thickening up and looking good. This purple kale. We've got some more tomatoes over here, also on an Oya system, that have not been hand watered since May. Most of these are Jetstar and, let's see, there's Jetstar and Black Seaman. Then we had a few losses, so I added another San Marzano tomato. And then the one over here is another Sun Gold. So we've got a few tomatoes setting. This right here is my melon tower, and the only melons I ever grow are the topaz melons. They are a melon that was handed down from generation to generation from the people who were in the Japanese internment camp here in Delta, Utah. The internment camp was called Topaz, and so that's why these are called topaz melons. They're a really beautiful little melon with spots rather than stripes. It's a cantaloupe type melon. So far, I'm only seeing male flowers, no female flowers yet, but we have a little bit before they really actually start setting fruit. We've got some winter squash here. The ones that I planted were the center cut squash, butternut squash, and spaghetti squash, and I've forgotten which is which. We'll figure that out once they start bearing fruit. And this year is the first year in 5 years that I'm seeing a ton of squash bugs. So I've had to come out here almost every night and kill bugs, which is not fun. On the back trellis here, we have a few pole beans. This is the northeastern pole bean, and they are really, really tender and delicious. Over here we have more of our winter squash, also watered exclusively by Oyas. And we've got the pole beans going up here, and they seem to be doing okay. They're not growing as fast as some of my other squash, but we'll see how it goes. Hiding behind the bush beans here, we have some very tiny bell peppers. Little one down there. And then one more squash at the end. A lot of flowers. And then down here, trailing down, we have some tomatillos that are starting to form fruit. Now I've moved the hoops down here. This is where I'm going to be planting some of my fall vegetables. The hoops are going to be for shade cloth because we're going to be planting those at the end of July, the beginning of August, and they, especially when they're brand new babies, don't like as much heat as we're getting. So that will shade some of my fall vegetables. We still have yet to finish harvesting this bed. We've got a kohlrabi. This is a super schmelz kohlrabi that can be harvested. And we've got a little tiny Florence fennel there that may need to be harvested someday. I don't know when it's going to finish growing or what it looks like. It's the first time to grow it. So we'll see how it does. Got some kale that can stay in this bed. Zinnias are starting to bloom. My squash seedlings, these are summer squash, finally came up. This one right here is probably a center cut squash. I thought, yeah, there we go. There's a little center cut squash, or maybe this one is a summer squash. We'll see. And this is a little zucchini. This one is the Costa Romanesco zucchini. We harvested one cabbage. It was huge and it's really sweet and delicious. And we need to harvest the rest. It's just too hot for them. And I think they're just about ready to be harvested. The onions are bulbing up nicely. We do have one that is flopped over that I'll probably harvest for dinner tonight. Let's go show you that one. When they flop over like this, that means they're done growing. That's not a super large one, but it's already flopped over, so we'll harvest that one. It's a yellow one. These are white and yellow Utah Sweet. And then we've got a red one, and I can't remember which red one I planted. But this is a mix of yellow, red, and white. This right here is an Antohi pepper. It's a very sweet, beautiful red pepper. Then we've got some sweet banana peppers. There's the cages that I'm going to use to hold up my cucumbers, and this is where I'm going to plant the cucumbers. And these are the baby cucumbers. So let's get started planting these and see how it goes. So now that we finished the garden tour, let's talk a little bit more about the cucumbers I like to plant. These are Marketmore 76. They're long, kind of salad type cucumbers, but if you pick them while they're young, they're still long, but they make excellent, excellent pickles. They never get bitter, no matter what, and this is the only cucumber I've planted for probably the last 30 years. I did try some pickling cucumbers, but they got bitter, and I just decided just to keep these. I pickle about 24 quarts every year, and my kids absolutely love them. Now, as for how I amended this bed, I amended it a little bit earlier. This had my cauliflower in it, and it was amended heavily with compost early this spring. So I'm not going to put any more compost in it. What I did instead is I added some Espoma garden tone and some blood meal, and I put quite a bit in here because the cauliflower depleted this for sure. And then I mixed it in a little bit. Now I know some people are really against tilling beds, but I like to at least mix it up a little bit, and that way I can assess what the root situation is, because I have a lot of trees on my properties, a lot of grapevines, and these beds get incursions of roots, and sometimes I need to take a pickaxe to it and pull all the roots out. But this bed was pretty good. I didn't find any roots. The fertilizer's all mixed in, so now it's ready to plant. I only usually plant about 6 hills. I planted 2 cucumbers in each one of these, and in only one of them both cucumbers came up. So I'm just going to plant this one with both cucumbers in it and then plant the rest. So let's plant them and then show you how I stake them. Now I'm just going to stagger these throughout the bed, give them plenty of room because they're going to get large. Space them evenly throughout the middle of the bed. Now that these little babies are planted, I'm going to be protecting them from the quail. The quail love cucumbers at this size. I'll link a video above that talks about the quail that are on my property, shows you the babies that are here. And I found out since I did that video that little tiny seedlings are baby quail's favorite. So that's why they disappear this time of year. Now I always plant these in July because that's when I have the beds available, and they mature so quickly that I'm able to have a crop in September. And I only use these for pickles and a little bit of fresh eating. I'm not a big, huge cucumber fan, so I don't need cucumbers year round. I just need a big harvest once a year. So I'm going to go through with my cups. I'm just going to push them into the ground around each plant. And this way the quail can't get them. Cutworms can't get them. And then as soon as they get 3 true leaves, these cups will come off. So there they are, all protected, and it usually only takes a couple of weeks for them to get the 3 true leaves, sometimes even sooner. So these cups won't be on them for very long at all. Now let's put the trellises up. Now these are tomato trellises that I use to trellis my cucumbers, and I have used trellises like this for 30 years now. And there is a big possibility, because I can't remember where I got these, there's a big possibility I brought these from California and had started using them in the 1990s. So these tomato trellises have lasted for a very, very long time. Now they are flimsy, and you would think that the cucumbers would get heavy enough to knock them over, but what happens is the cucumbers vine in between each other and in between the trellises, and that's what steadies them and that's what holds them up. So now all I need to do is water these in and my cucumbers are ready to go. I'll show you a picture of what they look like by the time they're ready to harvest. And it's just one big, huge, massive vine of cucumbers, which is fine because what it does is it shades the cucumbers on the inside of the plants and they don't get sun scald. So I'm really excited to have cucumbers planted for this year. Now I'd love to know what time of year you plant your cucumbers and what varieties are your favorite. And also, are you planting anything else in your garden this time of year? The only thing I'm able to plant this time of year, pretty much cucumbers and summer squash. But we can also plan for what we can do in the fall. And then I also do a winter harvest, which I will be planting the seeds the end of this month so that I can plant them in October and cover them in my hoop houses. So hopefully this video has been helpful for you. If it has been helpful, I hope you like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and go have a wonderful garden adventure.